Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our worship, I suppose, this morning. It's a bit different this morning because we can't gather physically as a community of faith, but we're still gathering in our own spaces and possibly at our own times. I am currently in my backyard recording this for you. I can see Morgan the pony down there eating the grass. There's birds singing, you might be able to pick that up. And you'll probably hear the chooks having a go in a minute as well. But welcome. Our theme this morning is how do we show our love for God and for our neighbour? And what a time it is to be exploring this theme and this reading. The Prime Minister has just told us that this week that this is a once in 100-year challenge. People are having battles in supermarkets over tins of baked beans, packets of rice. Others are making contact with their neighbours, possibly for the first time, just offering support, and that's pretty amazing. At these times of uncertainty, it's very, very easy to get sucked into the vortex of anxiety that's around us. But we are a people of hope. We are a people of God. So let's just remember that. And I'm going to begin with a verse from Isaiah chapter 41, verse 10. Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be afraid, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my victorious right hand. Now our reading for today is Mark 12, 28 to 44. And please listen to Fee as she reads it, or have a read yourself. So thanks, Fee, for the recording. The scribe has heard Jesus answer a really tricky question just before our particular reading. He's pretty impressed. It always impresses us when somebody with intellect and integrity answers a question well in a debate or a discussion. It's good to hear a thoughtful, meaningful response. The scribe, encouraged, asks his own question. Now, I don't think he's trying to trick Jesus or trying to be clever or anything like that. I think he's genuinely asking a question. He just wants an answer. You know, when some people ask a question, they can be quite confronting and they're looking for a verbal fight. But I don't think that's what's happening here. That's not what I feel is happening here. You might have a different interpretation. I kind of get the impression it's more of an exploring question, kind of like one pilgrim to another, although it's a different era, obviously. But he just wants an answer. Now, something that I really feels lacking in our Australian culture at the moment, and perhaps globally, is there's not a really good quality debate in politics or anything really. Rabbis then loved a good debate. They loved to take a question and chew it over together and ask each other questions, not in a confrontational point of, in a way, it was really just to explore the question. They never ended up with a slanging match. It was thoughtful. They didn't take offence. They just explored it together. Now, at that time, as I understand it, there were 613 religious laws. They debated these laws, working out which was perhaps had the highest priority, kind of like a scale. Now, there's no way that I can remember 613 laws. So this question is a good question to me, because it's saying, well, which one has priority? Which one do we need to follow so that it will lead us to follow the others? Which is the most important? Which sums up the others? And Jesus answers, love God with all your heart, your soul, your mind, and your strength. So love God with your whole being. Your intellect, your physical being, your emotional, your spiritual being. It's not just with your heart, but it's with your actions. And it's not with just your intellect, it's with your spiritual responses. This is from Deuteronomy 6, verse 4 to 5. And it's a vital part of Jewish prayer and Jewish faith. It is just beautiful, actually. God honours the whole human being by inviting love for God to be shown by our entire humanness, if that is a word. But that's actually what any rabbi would say. Love God with your whole being. Jesus adds to it. Jesus goes on to say, and love your neighbour as yourself. Now you could argue that second part, Jesus' additional bit, is actually implicit in the first commandment to love God. Because if you love God with your whole being, then obviously that includes your actions. We know actually though that the reality is very different. So Jesus is explicit. Jesus says nothing we do as humans, nothing we do as part of God's creation can be outside of this, can be beyond this. And then Jesus finishes with, there is no commandment greater than these. There is no commandment greater than loving God and loving our neighbour. These are strange times. We've seen the best and we've seen the worst of people, particularly in the supermarkets, and spare a thought for all those people working in our shops. I can't imagine what it's like. We're called to love. We are not able right now, because of circumstances beyond our control, to meet as a faith worshipping community. But just because we're not gathering in the same place, it doesn't mean that we stop being a people of love. It doesn't mean that we stop being a congregation. We're gathering in our own places, in our own spaces, perhaps at different times, because this is recorded. Some of us will be on our own. Some of us will be with friends. Some of us will be with our families. But we're all sharing the same sacred texts. We're all sharing the prayers. Don't forget Merin's activity, intergen activity that's there. So we can all gather together as people of love, showing love for one another. Matthew 18:20 says, "For when 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there I am in the midst of them." It is a bit different this week, and it will be a bit different for some weeks to come. We're working hard to get some resources on the website and out to people that don't have access to the internet. We're working hard so that we can connect via technology and phones, offering pastoral care, keep meeting as community, keep connecting. But above all, we are called to love. We're called to love God and our neighbour. And that means we do so not only with our intellect, but also with our actions. So don't be tempted to get into a scrum in the supermarket over toilet roll. It's not very loving. Please email or phone if you need any help or support. Pastoral care team are here to help. And stay in touch. Where you can safely, knock on your neighbour's door if they're not in isolation, and just care for each other. Take care. See you next week, and I might even be in a different part of my yard.